Okay, here we are in Guam, just in from the beaches. This is at Chonito Ridge. This is a Pacific War Museum. We are now here with the groundskeeper, Roy Moore. What we're standing at is at a battle site at the Chonito Cliffs, part of the Chonito Ridge battle. Right there is a bunker where 3 Japanese soldiers are entombed forever. There's all that clap stuff back there. That's a bunker. He can tell you more of that story later. Now, we're going to hear Captain Moskowec now recite about Chonito Ridge.
The taking of Chonito Ridge. The following is a dispatch written by Marine Combat Correspondent, Private First Class Cyril J. O'Brien in the field after the combat action. He describes his story. It was released for publication in the United States sometimes after the event, always after the families were notified of the wounded or death of the Marines mentioned. This story is reprinted as a carbon copy of a file which he retained of the stories he filed from the Pacific. Guam, July 24th. Delayed time. The first frontal attack on steep Chonito Ridge was made 1 hour after the Marine landing. An infantry squad led by Second Lieutenant James A. Gallo, 24, 172nd Broadway Street, Haverstraw, New York, approached the ruin within 10 yards of the tip. The crest bloomed with machine gun fire. In the face of it, the Marine Company tried its first assault. The company was thrown back before it had advanced 40 yards. For 50 hours, the company remained on the naked slope, trying again and again to storm the Japanese entrenchments hardly 100 yards away. Battered almost to annihilation, the tenacious Marines finally saw another company take the ridge from the rear. Failing in the first rush, the company had formed a flimsy defense line, not 50 yards from the enemy. Cover was scant. Some Marines had only tufts of grass to shield them. The Japanese were rolling grenades down the crest and blasting the Marines with knee mortars from over the summit. Under the cover of dusk, the company commander led a second attack. As the Marines rose, machine gun fire swept into them. The commander and 3 Marines reached the crest. The last 50 feet were almost vertical. The attackers grasped roots and dug their feet into the soft earth to keep from falling down the incline. The commander went over the ridge. He never came back. The remaining 3 Marines were ripped by crossfire. One saved himself by jumping into an enemy foxhole. Beaten again, the company retired to a small ravine and remained there all night. One Marine, shot through both legs, was asking for morphine. Another's thigh was ripped by shell fragments. A PFC, his dry tongue swollen, tried to whisper the range of an enemy sniper. At 11 in the morning of the 22nd, with a little more than a third of their original number, the company rushed the hillside again. Lieutenant Gallo led the assault on the left flank of the hill and was thrown back. Sergeant Charles V. Beaumire, 33, 4002 Gulf Street, Houston, Texas, with 9 Marines attempted to take the right side ground of the slope. 5 were killed as they left the ravine. The sergeant and 3 others reached the top of the slope. The Japanese again rolled grenades down the incline. One exploded under the chest of a Marine nearby, blowing off his head. Another grenade bounced off the helmet of the sergeant. It was a dud. The Marines charged into the Japanese entrenchment. The sergeant killed a Japanese machine gunner with the butt of his carbine. The assistant gunner exploded a grenade against his body. The blast threw the Marines out of the hole. They jumped into a vacated enemy foxhole. The lieutenant had come to join them, was shot between the eyes by a sniper. The sergeant killed the sniper with his carbine. Unable to hold their positions, the sergeant and his companies returned to the shelter of the ravine. With the shattered remnants of the company, they waited for nearly 24 hours until darting Marines on the top of the ridge showed Chonito had been taken from the rear. Field commanders came to appreciate in effect these so-called Joe Blow stories, had the morale of their men. The stories were printed in hometown newspapers and were clipped and sent to the troops in the Pacific, who could then see their efforts were being publicized and appreciated home. That concludes the narrative.
And here is Roy Moore, who tells us this is one of the positions, right here. Here we are by two Japanese anti-tank guns, which were captured by American forces in the first days of the battle. These guns were then used, since they had lots of ammunition captured with them, to fire directly into Japanese cave positions all around the island. They were ornaments in front of government buildings for quite a while, and now they've made it here. So these two guns were quite important in the Battle of Guam.